few companies are going to offer you RSUs, whereas a few other companies are going to offer you something called as ESOPs. And in all of these companies, there were different nuances. For example, Intervibit was a startup, so there was the allocation of ESOPs. Companies like LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft, they have your RSUs because these are listed companies. When you join your company, do you get the corresponding stocks immediately or do you get those later? How they are taxed? When can you vest them? When can you sell them? When you get the offer letter, those are the stock rewards that are allocated for you. You currently do not own them. If you complete the first year, you will get 25,000 US dollars. If you complete the second year, you will get 25,000 US dollar more, and so on. And every year you get more stock grants as well based on your performance. Let's say every year, let's say the first year you got 10,000 US dollar more stocks based on your performance. So those are going to be having, let's say, similar vesting cycle, that those 10,000 extra stocks are going to be vested over 4 years. So similar kind of a cycle happens. You are an employee in PhonePe, and PhonePe is about to get listed, let's say in 3 years. Let's assume that. So what PhonePe is going to do is 20 lakh INR worth of ESOPs, right? Which are again going to have some vesting cycle, let's say 4 years. So each year you are going to get 5 lakh INR of PhonePe ESOPs.
Before moving forward, I would like to tell you about our brand new offering at AlgoCamp around the advanced Spring Boot backend development cohort. So we were getting a lot of requests to actually launch our next iteration of the Spring Boot cohort, and here we are. This one is far more bigger and better than the last one, and trust me, if you are somebody who is looking to start their journey in the world of Spring Boot in the backend ecosystem, or maybe you already know some things about backend development, maybe in Spring Boot or maybe in some other tech stack, this is going to be a one-stop solution for you. We are going to talk about everything from the absolute beginner level to the advanced level in Spring Boot. We are going to talk about how exactly you can set up your backend ecosystem and backend projects in Spring Boot. We are going to take a microservice-driven architecture and build different projects, including an Uber app, including Airbnb app, payment wallet like Paytm wallet app, and many more. We are going to talk about how exactly microservices can actually communicate with each other in synchronous and asynchronous fashion. We are going to see a lot of interesting microservices pattern like CQRS pattern, Saga pattern for distributed transaction, how you can implement Saga pattern through orchestration and choreography, how Saga pattern is going to help you with respect to the implementation if you compare that with two-phase commit, how you can implement each one of them, what is the outbox pattern, how exactly event sourcing is going to work, how you can integrate Kafka for your event sourcing, and whatnot. We are going to see so many interesting database concepts like how exactly NoSQLs are internally implemented using LSM trees, what are write-ahead logs, how you can replicate your databases, how you can shard your databases, how you can design a good database schema, and whatnot. All the topics that we are going to cover must be listed in front of you on the screen here. What I can say is that this course is going to be one-stop solution to become an advanced backend engineer in Spring Boot. This is definitely going to demand some good time commitment from all the students who are interested, but trust me, this is going to be one hell of a ride. So what are you waiting for? Do check out the link in the description section below and read the complete end-to-end syllabus of what we are going to cover in the Spring Boot cohort. You can actually use the coupon SPRING2025 to get maximum possible discount on the course, and I'm really excited to see you guys in the cohort, right? Do check out the link description section below, and let's get back to the video.
If you're somebody who is actually aspiring to be a software engineer, there is a good chance that you might have gone through the salary packages of different startups in India, and also big tech giants like Google, Meta, Microsoft, Uber, Amazon, and whatnot. Now, in all of these companies, what you will realize is that the salary component has different parts. One part is your base salary, that's the actual cash that you're going to get. One part is the bonus, let's say the joining bonus, relocation bonus, performance bonus, retention bonus, and whatnot. Apart from that, there are some benefits like the insurances and everything. And at last, you will also find one part of your compensation that is going to be the stocks. Now, sometimes what you will find is a few companies are going to offer you RSUs, whereas a few other companies are going to offer you something called as ESOPs. So what is the difference between RSUs and ESOPs? How exactly these shares actually work out? Like, for example, a lot of people actually think that only the base salary is something that matters. But they don't realize that the shares part of your overall CTC is going to be the most humongous part that is going to give you extreme amount of returns and eventually will become the biggest part of your salary. So how exactly this part of your salary works, when you are going to get taxed on this, how you are going to get allocated all of these shares, everything I'm going to talk about in this particular video. I have worked with companies like Intervibit, LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft, And in all of these companies, there were different nuances. For example, Intuibit was a startup, so there was the allocation of ESOPs. Then companies like LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft, they have your RSUs because these are listed companies. So how exactly things work? When you join your company, do you get the corresponding stocks immediately, or do you get those later? How they are taxed? When can you vest them? When can you sell them? All of these things I'm going to talk about in this particular video. So do watch this video at the very end if you want to deeply understand the stocks component of your compensation as a software engineer in all of these companies. So without any further delay, let's just start. But before starting the video, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, do consider subscribing to the channel because we are going to put some really awesome content up ahead regarding tech and career. So let's just start. So technically, if you try to allocate, then there are going to be three different type of companies who are going to allocate you shares. Now, if you do not know what is a share, what is a stock, I would say that please try to Google it. These are very simple and I would say straightforward terms that I believe everybody generally knows. In this particular video, our focus is going to be that as a software engineer, how this is going to work for you. So talking about the companies, there are going to be three different type of companies. First are going to be those companies which do not offer any kind of stock options as in RSUs or ESOPs, nothing. For example, there are a lot of service-based companies which only offer the base salary and the insurances part, that is it. Right, so that's one category of company. And again, if you are somebody who is willing to target something around that, or you're already working there, then probably this video is not going to be for you. Then the second category of company is going to be those which are going to offer you RSUs. RSU stands for Restricted Stock Unit. And the third type of companies are going to be those who are going to offer you ESOPs, that is employee stock options. Now, in this video, we're going to take a detailed look at RSUs and ESOPs and how exactly they work. So see, I'll keep things very simple in this particular video. Of course, there are more nuances and more terms that you will try to hear, and you will also hear about them. For example, equities, fair market value, and all of those terms. But I'm going to keep it simple because if you're somebody who is still aspiring and who is still in the interview process and want to understand your compensation well, then you don't want to go into those much amount of detail. So I'll keep it simple. What is RSUs? What is ESOPs? So RSUs, as I said, are restricted stock units. So there are two parts to it. One is restricted, one is stock unit. Now, what is this stock unit? Generally, RSUs stand for those stocks which are already listed in public share market. Like, let's say, for example, if you consider in India, Zomato, which has been now named as Eternal, is listed on BSE and NSE, right? So it's a public stock. That means anybody can actually go and buy and sell those stocks on the share market. Similar to that, if you see let's say NASDAQ or other US stock exchanges, then there are companies like Google, Meta, Uber, Microsoft, Amazon. These companies are also listed on those stock markets. So most of these companies, whenever they are going to offer you stock options, these are the companies that offer you RSUs. RSU means that you are going to get actual public shares, right? That means the moment those shares have been successfully vested for you. What is the meaning of vesting? I'm going to talk about that. But the moment those are vested for you, at that point of time, you are the actual owner of the stock. That's going to be added as a wealth, as a value to your overall income. That means you're going to be taxed as well, and you can later sell them as well. These are like actual stocks that you're going to get. For example, let's say you open your, let's say, Grow account or Zerodha account, and let's say you want to buy some Reliance stocks. The moment, let's say, you buy some Reliance stock, you are the owner of those stocks. You can sell them as well. Similar kind of a thing happens with these RSUs as well. That these are stock units that are in actual listed markets, right? The moment they are going to be vested for you, you are the owner of them and you can actually sell them as well. Now, when you're going to sell, of course, there is going to be actual money that is going to be earned, but we're going to talk about this in a moment. But let's first of all try to understand the restricted part. What is this restricted stock unit? The restriction comes with the fact that the moment these stocks are actually vested, you cannot immediately sell them. There is slightly a bit of cool down period sometimes. So let's go into a slightly bit more depth at what exactly happens with RSUs. So what happens is that whenever you are going to join a particular company, the company is going to, let's say, allocate you $1,000 worth of stocks. They are going to say that, let's say your base salary is 40 lakhs, your bonus is 5 lakhs, and let's say you have $1,000 worth of stocks. Now, these $1,000 worth of stocks will be vested over a certain period of time. Maybe there is a company, or maybe you have a very big position that these $1,000 of stock is vested in 1 year. Maybe that's the case. But in most of the companies, what happens is that, let's say they allocate you $1,000 of stocks, then these $1,000 of stocks are allocated for you. And they are going to be vested over 4 years. Vested over 4 years means that when let's say the vesting cycle is 25% each year. So when the first year will complete, 25,000 US dollar let's say stock, because the total stock unit was let's say 100,000. Let's assume that the number is 100,000 US dollars. Now 25% of 100,000 US dollars is going to be 25,000 US dollars. So in the first year, 25,000 US dollars is vested for you. Now what is the meaning of this vesting and what is the meaning of this allocation? So let's say when you get your offer letter and you get 100,000 US dollar stock units, then those are allocated for you. You cannot sell them because they are kind of like reserved for you, but you have to spend a certain amount of time in the company and maintain a certain type of a performance in the company, so that when you complete that time period, some part of those stocks are going to be vested. The moment they are vested, you can kind of like say that, okay, now they are part of your wealth. They are actually your own stocks, and then you can sell them as well. So for example, let's say 100,000 US dollar stocks you got in your CTC. Now when you get the offer letter, those are the stock rewards that are allocated for you. You currently do not own them. If you complete the first year, you will get 25,000 US dollars. If you complete the second year, you will get 25,000 US dollar more, and so on. And every year you get more stock grants as well based on your performance. Let's say every year, let's say the first year you got 10,000 US dollar more stocks based on your performance. So those are going to be having, let's say, similar vesting cycle, that those 10,000 extra stocks are going to be vested over 4 years. So similar kind of a cycle happens. Now, the moment you join the company, so let's say this is your day one at the company. So what happens is that because the company has promised you that you will be getting 100,000 US dollars of stocks over the 4 years with 25% vesting each year, on your first day, or let's say generally the first month or the first week, they decide a date, and at that date they will see what's the stock price. So for example, let's say the stock price is $1,000. So what will happen is these 100,000 stock units that have been allocated to you is going to be divided by the stock price of that particular day, and they are going to figure out number of stock options, that what are the total number of stock options you are having, or what are the total number of stocks you are actually having. Now those total number of stocks, let's say for example, if you have been given 100,000 US dollar as the grant and $1,000 is the price of that particular stock at that particular day, then in that case you get 100 stock units. Now those 100 stock units are going to be something that are going to be vested over 4 years. That means in the first year you will get 25 stock units. In the next year you will get 25 more stock units when they are going to vest. Now on day one, when this price calculation happens, you are not taxed. Why? Because these shares are allocated to you. You have not vested those. That means you currently do not own those. For example, let's say if you leave the company in 6 months, you're not going to get those shares, right? Now, the moment the first year of the company, like you spend the one complete year at your company, then what happens is that those 25 units are going to be vested for you. Now you own those 25 stocks altogether. Now, the moment you own those 25 stocks, that means the vesting happens to you. That means those stocks have been added as your wealth. That's technically a part of your compensation now, because now you own them. The moment you own them, you have to pay taxes. Those taxes are going to be based on probably whatever country you live in. For example, most of the time, at least in our case, whatever stock, whatever taxation happens in India, those taxation actually gets applied, right? And then whatever will be the change in the stock price. Now let's say when the stock price was allocated to you, it was $1,000. Now it's, let's say, 1,500 US dollars, something like that. Then based on that, the price of those 25 units are also going to change. So you can say that RSUs are those stocks which are actually listed in the market. The moment you get them vested is the moment you own them. The moment you own them, that's part of your wealth. That means you have to be taxed on those, and then they are part of your wealth. You will be taxed again if you're going to sell them. Those tax are going to be around the capital gains tax. That, let's say, if when the shares were vested, they were of lesser price, and when you're selling them, they are of more price, then those capital gains are also going to be taxed. For example, at least in India, you have to pay some capital gains tax as well. So this is the complete story about RSUs. Now, ESOPs are a bit different than RSUs. First of all, at least in my experience, most of the companies which are not actually publicly listed offer ESOPs to their employees. What are ESOPs? ESOPs are employee stock options. What are these options? So these are kind of like a promise that, okay, when the company will be generally listed, at that point of time, you can actually exercise these stock options. So generally, for example, let's say you are an employee in PhonePe. and PhonePe is about to get listed, let's say in 3 years, let's assume that. So what PhonePe is going to do is, let's say PhonePe is going to say that, okay, you are going to get 20 lakh INR worth of ESOPs, right? Which are again going to have some vesting cycle, let's say 4 years. So each year you are going to get 5 lakh INR of PhonePe ESOPs. Now, because these ESOPs are not listed in the market, even when those ESOPs are vested for you, you cannot like sell it like on BSE or NSE or something like that, right? So what happens is that for every ESOP, generally the company allocates you ESOP at a certain price. That price can be 1 rupee or 10 rupee altogether, right? Generally the price is very less, like 1 rupee or 10 rupee, because these are kind of like a promise that when the company will be listed, you will be eligible to buy one stock unit of the company at 10 rupees. So, right. So let's say if you have 5 lakh INR worth of ESOPs and some X unit of stock options come into that. So all of those X unit of stock options, when the company gets listed, you will be able to technically buy, and you have to pay 10 rupees for those. So generally this price is kept very less so that the employee doesn't have to pay a lot on that. Now, interestingly, when the ESOPs are technically vested for you, then you are not taxed, because those are not like actual money that you are going to actually own. But once, let's say, the company gets listed, at that point of time, they will be part of your wealth, because that's like actual share that can be traded. And if you sell, then again, those kind of capital gains tax can come into the picture as well. Now, interestingly, with ESOPs, there are kind of like slightly a bit more details that, let's say, if you do not want to wait for the company to be listed, and let's say if you want to exercise those stocks earlier, then you have to pay, let's say, 10 rupees altogether for each stock, and you will get a return value for those. Generally, this happens when, let's say, a company does a buyback, or let's say you want to sell your shares to, let's say, some owner of the company or something like that. At that point of time, you will be technically taxed, because at that point of time, you're earning actual money. So ESOPs is more like that it's a promise that once the company is going to be listed, you will be owner of some part of the shares of the company, right? The problem with ESOPs is that a lot of companies might not be listed at any point of time. For example, if you see Flipkart has not been listed yet. It has been there for more than, I guess, 13, 14, 15 years altogether. So the problems with the ESOPs is that ESOPs also have some kind of an expiry. A lot of Indian startups will be having ESOP expiry of around 10 years. So this expiry can also come into the picture if you are keeping all of those ESOPs to yourself and you are waiting for the company to be listed. So that's why, if like now coming back to the main topic, that if you're looking at your compensation part, and if you are applying to those companies which are offering you RSUs, then those RSUs are technically actual money that you are going to get in your bank, because you can just sell it after the restricted time. Let's say it's a 1 month or 6 month time once it is vested. So that's like actual money. ESOPs, on the other hand, is like more like a paper money. Once those will be, let's say, vested, or you get a buyback from the company, at that point of time only you'll be able to earn, or let's say get some money actually in your bank account. So that is a kind of like a difference that you have to keep in mind. That's why a lot of startups also pay slightly higher base salary and offer ESOPs when compared to big tech giants, where these like companies like Google, Microsoft pay slightly lesser base salary but offer you more stocks. This is something that you have to technically keep in mind. So most of the companies have different vesting schedules. If you see, majority of the companies will be having a vesting schedule of 25% for 4 years. And again, when you are working in these companies for 4 years, every year you get more stock grants as well as part of your bonus. Now, some companies have slightly variations in these stock, grants. For example, Google earlier used to do 25% each year kind of like a vesting. Later, they did something called as a front-loaded vesting. What is a front-loaded vesting? In front-loaded vesting, you get 38% of your stock grant of RSUs in the first year. Then in the next year, you get 33%. Then in the next year, I guess you get 25% and so on. Like, so in the first initial 2 years, you are able to get a very big major chunk of your stock options, and then slowly, gradually it decreases. This, I'm not sure what's the thought process, but I believe one of the thought process should be that once the employees see that, okay, their comp is going to technically decrease, right? Like in the third year or fourth year, your comp is going to decrease, because what you were earning in the first year was majority because of the fact that you had a very big stock grant, like 38%. Now, so it's a motivation for the employees to actually work even harder and get more stock grants in the first 2 years, so that the compensation of the third and the fourth year also stays on the higher side. So this is an interesting vesting cycle that Google follows. If you see company like Uber, so Uber also has an interesting take that in Uber, you are going to get monthly vesting. So for example, 25% each year, but in the first year also, you will be able to get 1/12 of those 25% every month. Even in Google, there is monthly vesting schedule for some employees and there is quarterly vesting schedule for some employees. If you see something like, for example, a company like Coinbase also follows kind of like a monthly vesting schedule, and they are going to generally offer you 27,500 USDs of stock options, and those are going to be vested every month, right? And these 27,500 is for 1 year. So different companies have different kind of like vesting schedules. For example, if you see Microsoft, in Microsoft, the first year you have to wait for complete 12 months to get your first 25% grant. Once those 12 months are done, then every 3 months, then you start getting quarterly vesting. So from the second year, you do not have to complete the whole second year in order to get your the next 25% grant. Every quarter you will be granted something. So companies follow different schedule, that let's say first year 25% and then monthly vesting, or first year 25% and then quarterly vesting, or maybe 38% in the first year, and so on. So different companies have different, I would say, offering. Like Amazon has first year as 5%, second year as 15%, and so on. So they gradually increase your vesting schedule. This is generally done to ensure that the employees stay for a longer period of time, because the majority part of its stock options are going to come in the third and the fourth year. And Amazon compensates that in the first year by giving the joining bonus, and in the second year by giving the retention bonus. So every company has their own ways in order to compensate your overall CTC, but these stock options are vested with different schedules. So I believe these overall points about ESOPs and RSUs are making sense to all of you. If there was anything that was not exactly on point, or maybe if I missed any point, do let me know in the comment section below. I believe stocks are a great option to have in your CTC, because just think about it. Let's say you have even left a particular company and still the stock price of that particular company is increasing. So technically your overall wealth is also increasing altogether. And everybody in the company is working to ensure that the stock price and the overall company revenue grows, the company grows altogether. So the stock price is also going to increase eventually, right? So of course there is volatility in the market, but this is going to create a lot of wealth for you. Like senior engineers and staff engineers make big part of their CTC through these stock options only, be it RSUs or ESOPs. Even for ESOPs, there is so much on stake that, let's say if you have ESOPs of a company and that company goes public, then you will be getting a lot of wealth altogether. Like for example, what happened with employees of, let's say, Swiggy and Zomato. So this is interesting to have in your, I would say, overall CTC, and I would highly recommend you guys to do proper research and read all the paperwork of every single company and all the terms and conditions about every single thing that you are going to get in your CTC. That being said, let's wrap this particular video here. We're going to meet soon in the next set of videos. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. I'm Sanket Singh, signing off.